I think we're only missing Cassie and Whitney this morning, and we're going to record this and get this to them. Those of you who don't know, Mr. Horschelman is our fearless leader. He is all states, our direct report for all state corporate for Kansas, and he's in charge of Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, and I believe like Montana or something like that. Any redneck state he's in charge of, basically, because he's redneck. So he's cowboy. If you guys have seen the show Yellowstone, he was an extra in that show. So it was either him or Rip. They chose Rip, but it was a mistake. Anyway, I'm frozen. Am I frozen? All right, I'm back. Okay, very cool. So that's Matt. Matt, the thing you don't know about Matt is before Matt was in management with Allstate Corporate, he ran a $25 million-ish large Allstate agency and literally made it one of the top agencies in the country, all on his own. And so when this very knowledgeable and just Matt and I were talking yesterday about 2022 goals. Can you guys hear me?
You've been breaking up for the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, I still understood what he said though. I'm following.
Are you following? Okay.
I'm following. You're good.
Okay, Debbie. Thank you for giving me some grace here. He and I were talking yesterday, and we were talking a lot about how do we make sure we absolutely maximize everything that we've got going in 2022. And we were talking about do we need more staff? Do we have enough staff? And overwhelmingly, his answer is like, no, you have more than enough. We just got to get everybody rowing in the right direction. Some good nuggets yesterday. And okay, can you still hear me? Jeez.
Yeah, you're good.
Oh,
Yes, we can hear you.
Moly. Oh, am I? Okay. All right, good. I'm going to be switching to my phone here so I can actually listen. So long story short, Matt is I just thought it'd be better to hear it from Matt than from me, hear a new voice, someone that knows what the hell he's doing. So with that, Matt, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, thank you, Kyle. Hello, team. I thought I'd just chime in today and touch on a thing, but if this is my show, like, I'm cool. I love you guys. Goldie, check. Is my internet good?
Yeah, your internet's golden.
All right, good. We just switched internet companies. So I'm glad to hear that because the old company sucked. But cool. Well, thank you, Kyle, for letting me jump on. We had a meeting yesterday, and I just said, hey, I'm gonna take a look as if like I'm in your agency, right? Like I'm a part of the team. Goldie and I fist bump every day, and do the jumping chest bump and all that stuff. Let's take a look at some metrics. I said, let's run down and I want to get in the nitty gritty. And in doing so, we had this beautiful conversation. Mute something, Kyle. There you go.
Got him.
But anyway, it was one of the healthiest conversations I think I've had in the past 18 months. And that's when he said, hey, tomorrow morning, like, can you come on to the team meeting? I'm like, hell yeah, I'll move shit around to make sure that I can jump on with your team. So before I dive into some things, like getting in the nitty gritty, Kyle did a decent job of, like, I guess trying to say, like, hey, Matt does a lot of stuff and he's good at stuff. Like, that's cool, but none of that matters to you. Like, you don't give a shit what I did last year. You don't care what I did 1 week ago. But here's what I want to tell you all. I have a key bet this year. And my key bet is the ULIG agency being my #1 agency. All right. We had best in company, not far removed from that. Last year was a challenging year for a lot of people, and you still had a great year. I fully expect, and I'm betting on it. My family's betting on it, right? Because I don't know, I make money by agencies doing well. Okay. There's no doubt about it. But I mean it when I say number one team this year. I want you to have the highest bonus percentage of any agency in. Kyle did a great job trying to back out Montana, Wyoming, Nebraska, and Kansas. Every agency in those 4 states. We talk like this, but I'm not saying number one agency to anybody else. So put that in your back pocket. If you don't feel any pressure, good positive pressure, feel it now, because literally I'm going to be watching every single day. I'm banking on us. So that said, looking at some of the numbers yesterday, and Kyle and I put our heads together, and I said, show me your numbers. I know you tracked a lot of stuff. I asked about a couple of things here. I don't see Gavin on here today, but all of a sudden he just calls up Gavin and said, ask Gavin that. He got put on the spot. He did awesome. Like, I love Gavin. But there's some things that stood out to me. And I want to ask a couple questions of the team. And I want to talk through a couple of processes today, share some ideas. And this is all coming from 100% positive, supportive position, because I know that we can do it. I just think we need to do some things a little differently, or a little bit more of certain things. There's Gavin. I see you now. Sorry, buddy. So jumping into it, the number one thing that jumped out to me is we have a metric of, what's it called, Kyle?
The where we're tracking whether you're
Self-generated
grow or
self-generated
self-generated.
quotes.
Okay. Yep.
So, and in that column, or in that category, is quote requotes and win backs, correct? Some nodding.
Correct. So Matt, anything that wasn't recently purchased for the agency can be considered self-generated. So an age lead, a requote, a win back, own personal network, your own referral that you got, anything like that would be self-generated. That's 100% correct.
All right, cool. So I want to make sure I understood that correctly. We talked about it yesterday, but just to make sure the whole team understands. But here's what stood out to me. I've had the opportunity now to work with several very high performing agencies, not just in my 4 states, but gotten to know some agencies throughout the country. And I still keep in touch with my former agency. And one of my best friends is the guy who filled my position there, running all the operations. So very in tune. And there's one thing that stood out to me when I looked at some of the numbers is, I know for a fact the top 1% of the agencies in the country, the best of the best, they're tight, super tight on their requotes and their win backs. They don't get missed ever, right? That's how they perform. And there's something that stood out to me in analyzing where our business is coming from, right? Kyle spends a lot in marketing to make sure that phone rings. And I love it. He spends a lot. But even with that spend, and I won't get too analytical, and if you want to check me on it, please, we can have a conversation, but just trust me when I say, if the win back and requote campaign is being worked very tightly, in any agency, it will be the number one sales campaign when you look at production of any agency. So that's one thing I think there's a huge opportunity with this team. Huge opportunity is, what can we do to make sure that our requotes are getting worked when they're supposed to every single time? And there's a longer tail on this to where you won't see the benefits right away, but when you call somebody 3-4 times in a row in a 2-month period, they begin to expect it. You might be like, hey, Goldie, it's you again, like out on home time, huh? Let's see what you got. When you get to that spot where you're that tight, the contact rate goes through the roof, the close rate goes through the roof. It's unbelievable. But that's what I kind of want to talk about today is, and I'm going to ask a couple questions that might be rhetorical. They might not. They're not rhetorical, because I want everybody to say, what can I do to get to X? Matt asked this question. But anyway, I just want to I guess that's the main thing I'm gonna talk about today. And Kyle, jump in, steer me. Gavin, say, hey, Matt, I didn't like what you said yesterday, or hey, Matt, I think it's kind of cool the way you position this. Like, jump in. But that's what I want to kind of talk about today is requotes and win backs and what we can do to get more of them out the door. I'll pause in a moment, but here's what kind of triggered this. I was looking at it and I was looking at individual numbers. So I wanted to get gritty with Kyle. I said, let's do a rundown of the team one by one.
Pull them up.
No, we don't need to do that.
Okay.
In front of the whole group. You guys can do it afterward. But looking at it, I just went through, I looked at quote numbers, looked at sales numbers. They're good. They're good. But I think there's so much more meat on the bone. And I know your guys' talent level. I know it. So here's the question that I asked. And Gavin, again, sorry, like you got picked because I was just call him. But it could have been any one of you. But anyway, here's the question that I asked. Say if you're quoting 3 households a day, what is stopping you from quoting 6? If you're gonna write down a couple things, I'm not saying that to be a smart ass. I'm saying it legitimately, like what can Kyle do to help make sure that your day is aligned in a way that you can be more successful, get more quotes out? Because items on the books, premium on the books, however you want to measure it, that stuff follows activity like a dog on a leash. Okay. So when Kyle up her head, I said, quotes out the door. No shit, Matt. You gotta get more quotes to get more items. But I want to just ask everybody today, what's stopping you from an extra household or 2 per day? Or in some cases, what's stopping you from doubling or tripling the amount of quotes you're getting out the door? And I know we have a ton of marketing coming in. I know we have a lot of lists that we work, lead lists that we work. And one of the things I challenged Kyle with is, what lists do we have, right? Are we calling crap all day? Like, nobody wants to do that. Are we calling crap 80% of the day, 50% of the day? Let's take a look at our lead list. And that's probably a little bit more investigation and analysis. But initially, there's 2 campaigns, and there's one that I love the most, and that's the win-back campaign. So I want to dive into the win-back campaign specifically, some ideas, but also these are some of my ideas. Some I did, some I picked up along the way, but I've shared with a lot of agencies and they've had success, but open to your ideas, thoughts, and feedback. So I'll pause there, try to set this up. I want to get nitty gritty on sales, but any questions at this point? Feedback. You guys having fun yet? Holy shit, this is great, isn't it?
I'm having a great time. So I would here's what I would say, Matt, that I really want to focus on, because I think a lot of times for our team, we look around like, okay, where do I go? Like, point me in the right direction. And for us, Matt, there's lead manager that our outbound team focuses in, and then there's e-agent that our inbound team focuses in, and we're transitioning from blitz where there's thousands of notes and leads. And so when someone goes into lead manager, there's none of those notes and none of those leads information, rather. There's none of that information. You just have the name and the phone number and the address. That's all you got. And you know as well as I do, if it's truly a requote or a win back, to have some of that other information is very powerful. But I think, like, I want to help steer this. I feel that if we know where to go look in blitz, we can start having a lot of success on requotes. And I've shared the win back list, right? Like everyone at some point has gotten it, whether they say they haven't or haven't, that's a whole nother conversation. But if you've been here for at least 6 months, I've shared that list. It's out there. I struggle with, Matt, personally, just being honest, like with the 2 different departments within our organization, how do, and I don't know that I have a definitive answer right now, but how do we, like my process is really right now is like, look, if you cancel the policy, set the win back, make sure the win back's set for somebody. But I don't know that that's being seen through. And I'm talking in circles here. Because to me personally, like I agree with you 1,000%. Like I think if you've been here for 3 years, you should have more win backs than you ever know what to do with. And it's alarming when I look at the numbers, how many requotes we're actually quoting. And so I'm trying to figure out how we ultimately get organized with making sure that, every time we quote someone that we're setting it up for a requote, because, like I said, if you've been here for a while, there should be a tremendous amount of requote opportunities. And then I want to talk through setting up that expectation, Matt, that you talked about so greatly with the client, that they're going to be requoted. And is it okay to go ahead and get that quote out to you? I just love that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot there to kind of discuss, and anybody's, welcome to chime in, or at least take notes for later, and share with me or Julie or whoever.
Yeah. So in my mind, I thought about some more things this morning. And I'll share that with the group. But I'll start here because I think it's, you got to put one foot on the ground first before you can walk. The first step has to happen, right? And I'm not saying you guys, I'm not saying anybody can't walk, but literally just making it simple for my simple mind. If I'm going to work one campaign proactively, the best leads in any system are win backs. They left for price, they'll come back for price. There's no him hawing, there's no chasing, they know you. You got their price again, cool. And I want to caution everybody to, well, shit, our price is the same, or maybe it's a little bit more than it was when they left. When do they leave? Are other companies taking rates right now? I cannot wait. I cannot wait to share with the market all of the activity that happened late last year and is scheduled for the first quarter of this year. Companies are taking rates. So that's why I stand win backs, number one campaign. So there's a hierarchy, and I'll share this quick, and then we'll get into some details. I'll share some ideas on what can we do with the win back process. Like literally, how can I get more quotes out? But I've always operated this way. Thinking of things that are of the most importance. All right. Now, family and health aside, let's live in the all-state world, because literally right now, if my wife texts me, hey, something with a kid, I'm out. Like I'm leaving my camera and I'm out. So that aside, you guys prioritize your family. But if I'm in an all-state office or working from home for all-state, here's my hierarchy. If I'm on the phone or if I have a customer in front of me, there's nothing else more important than that right there. Emails, nothing. Getting water, coffee. I've got somebody engaged. I'm talking to somebody, trying to close them, right? Presenting to them. So that's number one. There's nothing more important than that. Two, there's nothing more important than trying to get to that level, right? So calling, emailing, texting, whatever it is, trying to drum up that conversation where I'm in front of or engage with a prospect, right? So that's number two, is the activity to get that, to try to find somebody to engage with. If I'm not calling or emailing somebody to try to engage them, and they're not in front of me or they're not on the phone with me, what is the third thing that is the most important thing for me to put money on the table? It's literally working quotes and getting them out the door. I called Kyle, I texted him, I emailed him, son of a gun, didn't hear from him. Do I wait 6 more months to try to engage him? Raise your hand if you weren't in insurance, right? Who loves talking to insurance people? Nobody. You're sick. Oh, Goldie, you did? Well, some of us, when we grew up, we were.
I had to
little-
rethink your question. You said when you weren't in insurance. I love talking insurance now. I had to rethink what you asked. When I was before insurance, I didn't have it. I didn't.
Right, nobody does. Nobody does. They'll avoid it like the plague, right? So this is where we kind of got into yesterday. So, and I'm just talking about win backs right now. And I'm prioritizing them myself. You guys prioritize another campaign if you want. There are a couple things with win backs. I already mentioned, I think they're best leads. Let's treat them differently. Let's spend more time on them. Let's invest in them. So, couple ideas. When somebody's actually calling to cancel a policy, one, we tell them, hey, we love you, like, don't you go, let's see if we can save you. If we can't save you, let's not be buttheads about it. Let's be nice. And then, cool, we'll get this all squared away. You know, still love you, want you back. Is it okay? Is it okay if, and if it makes sense, like if our rates change or something like that, is it okay if I follow up and get you some updated quotes? Maybe renewal or just in the future? They're gonna say yes. 98% of the time, 97% of the time. A claims issue or a service issue with your office, like those aren't coming back anyway. But most people left for price, they'll come back for price. So right there is gaining permission to requote them at the point that they leave. Now that's a process moving forward. So that's not going to help in the immediate, but the good thing is we're in January. So by July, a lot of these conversations are going to happen. So that's one thing that I would put in and document all of your notes. Whoever it's at, Blitz, lead manager, e-agent, make sure it's documented. I talked to Kyle. He agreed that it is okay for me to send him updated quotes. So that's one thing as far as the process. Second thing, for winning people back. I've had a lot of luck with this personally, and then a lot of agencies have installed this. A 30-day checkpoint after they leave. I'm sure whether you're outbound sales or you're taking sales and service, we'll cover everybody here. But there's a 30-day touch point after the fact that is non-sales. It is literally following up with the customer saying, want to make sure the transition went okay. Still love you, still love to have you back, but let's just make sure everything's good right now. It's rare, or I'll say it's not common, but at that 30-day checkpoint, guess what? Other companies' bills change. They get surprised, right? I don't know if it's bait and switch, but they didn't fully understand. Some people will come back right away. I won't help for new business, but Kyle will take it. I'll take it. If nothing else, it's a great touch point to let them know that we care for them. That's one thing. Now there's a 3-month touch point. Again, no sales. Letting you know that I love you. Just checking in, make sure everything's okay. And I'm going to give you a heads up. Your renewal might be coming up, or maybe I've got some new rates coming. If it makes sense for me to reach out to you, I'm going to shoot you an updated quote. Not asking any questions, just setting it up. No sales. Then the renewal comes around. And here's where Kyle and I discussed. And compliance is a huge deal. So I'm a sales leader out here in front of a team. There's nothing more important than compliance. But I want to treat winbacks differently. You have a relationship with them or a former relationship. I think it's non-negotiable that every winback gets a quote. Every single time we're supposed to follow up with them. Now, if I don't have permission to requote, if I don't have permission to run reports, I think it's worth the time and energy to run a blind quote and make sure they get that quote somehow. Something in their hands, going back to goalie night conversation, like nobody's going to return your call or email unless they see a number, right? Or they're more likely to return your call or email if they see a number. So get them that blind quote, give them the best available, most accurate rate you can possibly provide, and spend the extra time on that.
So what I heard there is ultimately, just to recap that, Matt, is that customer gives us consent to, yes, as rates change, if anything changes with Allstate, I'd like an updated quote. And ultimately, that note being saved, whether it's e-agent or lead manager, affords us the right to, until told otherwise by the client, that as things change, to get the quote out to, and get it in their hands.
I want a quote in their hands. Like Yeah.
I think if you take anything away from this call, if you're struggling with self-generated, when honestly, if we look at the numbers, a lot of us are, that's an easy way to really increase that number. Update the quote and get it out. The moral of the story is we need to get more quotes in front of more people to engage them. That was probably my biggest takeaway yesterday. And that, and the fact that in 5.5 years of all the requotes we have out there, on average, it's about 1 per person getting requoted per day on this team. That's a staggering number. It takes my breath away, being honest.
Kyle, I wonder if we're not coding our quotes correctly in Humble on some of these self-generated ones where somebody goes out and they're requoting something from a year ago. Maybe they're putting it as requote quoting fast, but it's not reflecting it as self-generated at that point because there's different code. That's why I wanted to go over that this morning and make sure everybody is coding those correctly so that we're tracking self-generated properly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anything that's a requote should be self-generated. Should be considered self-generated because it's a
That's
requote.
what I'm saying. There's so many options in Humble. I'm not sure that we're coding them correctly.
Yeah, I put all of mine as like a requote on there,
Me too.
but I don't
Yeah.
take any of the incoming leads, so all of mine.
Yeah, I was putting them under what they originally came in under. So if it was a quoting fire requote, not a self-generated that I went out and found and did again. So that was where my questions came from yesterday when I noticed we didn't have that many self-generated leads. I was like, well, what's considered self-generated?
To me, a requote is self-generated because you went out, found it, got a hold of them.
100%. Yep.
So that's why they were coded wrong, I think, because we were putting them under what they originally came in under.
So yeah, if you put it under, if you requote a quoting fast and you put it as a quoting fast, it's not going to be counted as self-generated. It's going to be counted as a new quote. If it's a requote, defining a requote is when the reports have expired.
Yeah.
The consumer report in the LAS is expired. You re-engage the client with a new quote, rerun the reports. That's a requote. That's the self-generated lead. And maybe that's the reason why it's so low. I hope that's why hopefully we can right that ship and start having more self-generated requotes, because I'd love nothing more to see that number go up. I feel like there's no reason that must be the only reason. It's the only thing I can think of. So yeah, if it's a requote, we need to put requote. If it's a new lead that just came in, a new live transfer, a new mailer, a customer that was a referral from an agency generated referral, that's not self-generated. And we can have a follow-up on that and go over all of that again tomorrow morning. Would be a good time to do that, because I want to make sure we're getting these things in there right. And we'll talk more again about that, how important it is to make sure we're getting everything in there same day or next morning. Ultimately, you got 24 hours to get the quote into the Humble. Otherwise, I can't. Don't come and say I need to update it because I forgot. Like, it's just at that point, it creates a lot of back end work for me, for Scott and Isley, and it's not fair. So I need everyone to make sure they're putting them in there. But anyway, let's talk more about that tomorrow. Matt, one of the things you said yesterday is how you set up that next conversation to make sure that the customer is saying yes to the requote, yes to the win back, because really, to me, they're one and the same. Like, you have a really good rapport. If Noah has a really good rapport with someone today, and she sets up the expectation that as rates change with Allstate, as things change with Allstate, whether it's an accident or ticket, do you want me to send you updated quotes? You want to be notified? And you said that conversation is so critical. That was one of the things I really highlighted. Can you maybe touch on that just a little bit more?
Absolutely. So, I mean, even if I have a really good close rate at 15% or 20%, right? Like, 85% of the people that I talk to, I'm not closing ever, right? So huge opportunity. And this is where the longer tail, like the patience comes in, but the discipline to install this as part of your process right now is one of the keys to success for down the road. I had an unbelievable team. They put up some unbelievable numbers, and I'm so glad that I got to see them and learn from them. And this is probably the most critical component of their campaign. What made them successful is setting up that next requote for the 80-90% of the people that we don't close. And it's as simple as, ask for the sale, try to close it. It's not going to happen most of the time. What do I do next? Oh, maybe next time. Have a real conversation, right? We're insurance professionals. And just kind of set that up and just, hey, it didn't work out this time, right? For whatever reason, because we talked about the reason, right? If it's not price, what is the other reason? I've been with my brother-in-law for 30 years, whatever that reason is. Cool. Well, I'm going to keep following up with you because you know what? Love the conversation with you, Kyle. And maybe I didn't have enough for you to come over this time, but maybe I will next time. And I understand you. So if it makes sense next time, certainly going to get some updated quotes to you. You'd be all right with that, correct? Yes, absolutely. Well, when it makes sense, we have rate change or next renewal. See you then. And that adds a personal layer to it. And here's what I witnessed with my former team. And it took a while to get there, right? The first 6 months was awesome when we first saw that round, but you get into month 18, month 24, I'm telling you, these prospects, we've been chasing for 2, 3, 4 years. One, there's no better feeling than closing somebody you followed up of every 6 months for 2 or 3 years. But two, they would literally answer the call. Hey, Chris, it's you again. How you doing, man? How's the family? How's it? Like, that's the type of lead management that makes it like, that's not working a lead. That's easy, right? If you just have the price that one time, it's a done deal because they don't need to worry about liking and trusting you. You already got that. So I'm rambling, but if I can install one thing, like a lead is not just a lead. A lead is your future spending money, right? And it might not happen the first time. It might not happen the second, third, fourth time, but at some point you're gonna make money on them. So how you leave that conversation, just think about that, make it your own, internalize it. And you're just setting up jumpers all day long. Finally, after a freaking 44 minutes, I got some heads nodding. See, I'm not terrible, Kyle. Come on, man.
Here's what I'm going to add to this. Another one of the things I took away is, and we've talked about this before, guys, but it's no secret, but in 8 hours, you quote 2 households. And I know takeaway tech issues, and let's really put the screws to Matt here on the tech issues that all states have had lately that have caused us to not hit our variable comp and potentially, lose the revenue for the business and lose revenue for your guys' pockets. Let's really make Matt feel like shit about that today, so he can take that back up to top. I think that's only fair why we have him, but ultimately, in 8 hours, you quote 2 households, and we talked about, it takes 15 to 20 minutes to quote a household, assuming there's no technological issues. So maybe increase that by 30 minutes on average now. So it takes an hour to quote 2 households. And so the question becomes, like, what can we do, or what are we doing? And if it takes 2 hours to quote a household, it takes an hour to find 2 household prospecting. So there's 3 hours. So what are we doing in the other roughly 5 hours in our day? And maybe that is a rhetorical question. I welcome feedback, but it's one of the things that I always really wrestle with. Like, how do we make sure, number one, that we're, I want to share that. And then I'm going to open it up for you guys to give feedback, ask Matt questions, based around making sure that we're getting quotes out the door, more quotes out the door, more requotes, more self-generated. And then one of the things when reflecting on the metrics for 2022, how to be elite, how to be pro, how to be emerging, that Matt shared with me, is that on the outbound team, it's harder to have longer conversations, and we're seeing that in the numbers so far. So I always want to be fair. I want to stretch you guys to be elite. I don't want to make it necessarily impossible to be elite. So one of the things that after talking to Matt that we're going to be tweaking effectively on the inbound or the outbound rather, is that it's no longer 3 hours of talk time, because that's not as important to me as getting the activity and getting in front of people. We're going to decrease that number to 2.5 hours. So for January and beyond, it'll be 2.5 hours. So we're not going to half hour off that number. But 3 hours we feel is more than fair on the inbound team, looking at the results so far. So we're going to not change anything there. But ultimately, that's the one change we're making to that report. And then the other thing that that I'm doing on that report is, above all other things, we talked about getting 5/8 of those metrics, but above all of those metrics, the number one thing that's important is policies and premium. And so if you are hitting the premium numbers, and you maybe didn't hit the other metrics, you are still going to qualify for all the top leads for the month. I'm not taking away mailers or live transfers or agency referrals or anything like that. It doesn't mean you'll bonus, but I certainly am not going to cripple you from taking the leads. So those would be the two changes we're making to the metrics. But with that, any thoughts, questions, feedback for Matt or me or anybody based around this?
Pause for 1 second.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to challenge the entire team now and then bring it. Technology sucked. All right. Just sucked. Like, let's just get that out of the way. But I'm going to pause. Kyle said it's rhetorical. I'm going to challenge you guys. I don't think it's rhetorical. Within the next handful of days, I think it's a very important question. What is stopping you from doubling your quote volume or increasing your quote volume? What is stopping you? And I think it's critical. Write it down, have a conversation with your manager or Kyle, because I want to see it. Again, not from you're not doing your shit. Literally, what can Kyle set up differently? What can we tweak? What is getting in the way? Because it's constantly evolving for every individual. Like, I'm struggling with this, or this was a pain point today or last week. Here's an example. I think it's critical information to shape the number one team in my freaking market. So that's where I'll challenge you, and Kyle, follow through with it or not. Say Matt is off his rocker. He's a moron. What a redneck.
No, that's more than fair.
Yeah,
It's not rhetorical. You're right. So what is stopping you? I think we talked to Gavin yesterday about it. But I want to hear from everybody on it. And I'll do everything I can to help that, and Julie will, and Goldie will, to help that to happen. But if we don't, we talked about this in December at the conference, and we're talking about it again right now. But if we don't get that activity up, if we don't continue to push ourselves to increase the activity, to increase the quotes, and I want to support however I can. And it can't always be, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this out there. It can't always be spend more money. It can't be buy more live transfers. That can't be the answer. What I'm looking for is other ways to help you find self-generated leads, whether it's referrals on your own and I guess, so I'm not opposed to spending more money, but it needs to be self-generated leads, whether that's getting out and getting referrals, or that's the message. We've seen what that's done for some folks that have gotten referrals as of late. And then working the system. The system, by the system, I mean win backs. I mean requotes. That's really what I'm looking for. Is that fair? It's a way better lead for the agency and for you guys. But I do, you're right. I actually would say email me call me. And then if you email me, include Matt on it. Because he doesn't get enough emails, and I think he'd like to see that. So, and then he can hold me accountable. Fuck, he'll fire me if I don't fix it. So, all right. Any other challenges for us, Mr. Horstman?
No, I probably shouldn't use challenge. Like it's a challenge can have a negative connotation. I don't want to challenge you. I think Kyle needs to know what he needs to do differently to help. So this is from a positive, 100% positive spot. So with that, you've got me. And if you can't tell, I love you guys. I love what you do in a totally professional manner. So questions, comments, feedback, you can yell at me. I have one feeling and you can't hurt it, but bring it. What's up, Goldie?
I do have a question for you. So let's say there was an idea we had as far as an RMP change. Now, I know this doesn't necessarily help with activity, but it does help with the potential to write business. If we have ideas for RMP changes or concerns with a particular RMP, is that something we can bring to you as a way to potentially send that up the ladder? Or is it kind of, once it comes down, there's no question?
So I love that you and the team asked that. Last week before, here's a funny story. It's quick. Don't worry. Kansas agent emails me and says, hey, with the inflation costs on homes, like, are we looking at increasing the high value limit that we can do? And I said, great question. Send it to product. Product sends me an email back immediately. Like, this is coming January 31st. You can write 2.25 million as opposed to 2 million. So yes, feedback. Absolutely. Now, I don't want 8 emails a day with some crazy ideas, but literally funnel it up. If you have an idea, I meet monthly with product, and I'm trying to shape home right now for renewals to give us, like, I'm trying to see what else can we do besides adjusting deductible. So yes, please give me your ideas on RMP pain points or opening up the doors a little bit. We'll discuss it.
Absolutely. Have they ever thought of, and maybe this is an idea, have they ever thought about having a brainstorming session with the people who are in the trenches daily? Maybe inviting like 25 LSPs from across the region or across whatever state to discuss opportunities for changes.
Great. I haven't put my product people in front of LSPs yet, but we absolutely do loop in agencies or agency owners for direct feedback. But I think that's a great idea because, I mean, Kyle will probably, I would admit too, when I was like, no, you guys know this stuff way better than I do. So I love that idea. I love it.
Hey, I got a question that kind of is on the same line as Goldie's. So when we've got some issue like we're going to lose a customer for something silly like 2 service line claims that we went through the process and it's a great customer and it's just weird the way it worked out, but RMBC is black and white and nope, they're gone. Can we do the same, follow the same process there?
Great question, Drew, because I understand the pain points because I get a lot of these emails. I am not your first line for escalation, but I want everybody to get your pen and paper out. I haven't shared this in a group setting. It's been one-off. One, claims. Well, just in general, I want everybody to understand your first line is chatting, emailing. Like, before I can ever look at anything, that's the first question I'm going to get when I send it up is, where's the chat? Like, where did they stall out on this process? Because here's protocol. And as big of a pain as it can be sometimes, you've got to follow that process first. Now, assuming that's already done, claims, you got an egregious situation, email me. And put it in a format with no swear words and no negativity. Just here's the facts and objectives, because I'm forwarding your email to my escalation team. That customer,
And we would never do that anyway. So
right, that customer that or you is you're going to be contacted within 24 hours. I promise, usually within a few hours. So I've got a great claims escalation. When it comes to RMBC and some of these other things, back to the pen and paper. Make sure. Here's some keywords. when you want to escalate. Customer in jeopardy due to complex situation. Customer in jeopardy due to complex situation. There. Didn't hear it from me. That gets
Thank
to a
you.
manager.
Matt, I got a question for you.
What's up, Marshall?
Well, first off, good to see you.
Nice to see you too, bud.
So I know I write a little bit of no need, no prior, and I know Debbie over here writes a ton of it. So what we run into a lot is they cancel our policies after we write them. We submit documentation, do the whole deal, and then they act like they never got documentation and terminate our stuff. Is there a way we can get that to stop happening? Because we're doing everything we're supposed to, and then they say, well, we never received your document. Well, I can clearly see I uploaded it. I emailed it over, but you still terminated our stuff. And I don't know how familiar you are with that process, but.
Yeah, I am. So what I would ask for in that situation, and if you have examples right now, send me an example or two. And then if you have any chats or any documentation from RMBC and what they are saying, include that. Because I'd like to take a look at that. I know there's an issue with the technology for no need, no prior for a little bit where it wasn't allowing us to do it, but great question. No, we don't want to spend the time bringing somebody on just to cancel if they're not supposed to be canceled. So send me an example or two. Cool.
And to his point on that, Matt, like one of the problems that I know has impacted a lot of people's time to write new business and do quotes is having to chase an answer or get help on whatever it is, right? Whether it's an RMP issue, so we go to the RMBC and they're like, oh no, that's billing. So then they send you to billing. Billing's like, no, that's a tech problem. So then they send you to tech. And then you end up getting passed around to 6 different people before you finally get back to the person you went, or the team you went to start because you knew where you're supposed to go. And you finally get somebody competent enough to help you. Like I had a particular issue three Mondays ago, and I kid you not, I was in chats for 6 hours to fix this for the client. The problem with chat is they might take 30 minutes to respond to you, but if you don't respond to them in 3 minutes or less, they disconnect the chat. So the back end, and I'll say quote help teams, that's a big impact on the ability to quote and write new business is the lack of help from those teams.
Yeah. And I won't stick my head in the sand and act like it's not like I feel for anybody that's got to go through that right now. So, and you got to stay attentive, right? But going like, I can wait for that chat. I can quote while I'm waiting for that chat. I probably don't want to engage with a customer because there's nothing more important than talking to a customer. But I'll ask you, funnel it through Julie, through Goldie, when you have egregious situations. Like I share examples every week of we are not where we need to be on a support level because of the sheer people hours wasted, right? Trying to get an answer, trying to get some help. And it makes me sick to my stomach to think at a grand level, countrywide, like how many hours are we sitting here waiting? Right? Got 25,000 LSPs countrywide chatting in. So we still got some work to do. So that's where funnel it up. When you get an egregious situation, I'll keep that in front of my leadership team. My manager is Julie. Vicky Adamchek is the entire zone leader. They're very passionate about making sure that we get the support that we need and very vocal. So I appreciate that feedback.
Yep. Matt, any closing comments? Because I think we're close to an hour here, and I know you've got a lot on your plate today and carved out time to meet with us, which is super awesome. Anything closing before we wrap up?
I wish we were all in person.
Don't,
I wish I could
don't we
high
all?
five, right? I wish I could high five all of you someday soon here. Just to feel that energy, have some fun. But I don't have any resounding comments
Okay.
to close it out, except for, I mean it when I say I'm looking at you. You've got the team. You guys have the talent. You've got the resources. You're going to be my number one agency. I got a lot of agencies now with 4 states. Not necessarily a challenge, but maybe an expectation. Like, we're going to do it. Like, I fully expect that. So I want to continue to be a part of your team. Any one of you can reach out anytime. I'll let you know if it's too much or what the hell is this coming to me for? Like,
Please do.
Call, email, text, anytime. A few of you know, you can reach out and I'll get back to you. But other than that, just know I'm here to support you. I have high expectations of you, and they're not unfounded. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It was good to see you. Good to hear from you. Hopefully you guys got some good nuggets from that, and you can apply them. None less than the just get the consent and send the damn quote out, and let's get more touches in front of people. My biggest takeaway. Hopefully you guys got some other ones that you want to share here in a minute. But Matt, appreciate everything you do for us. We know you're fighting the good fight daily, and thanks for joining us.
Peace out, everyone. Thank you.
What'd you think? Feedback, thoughts? You didn't want to